Welcome to the Elevating La Cultura podcast, a space where I talk with Latinas who are passionate about what they do and are willing to share that passion with others to change the narrative, especially for the next generation. Each season is centered around different topics, but all with a Latina perspective. Welcome to Season 8, where we will talk all things corporate and higher education. I'm so excited to share these powerful stories. So vámonos, and let's get into it. Hola, today I'm chatting with Elizabeth, a personal injury adjuster for an auto insurance company based out of Los Angeles, California. She's a mother of one, friend to many, daughter, sister, and lover of all natural things and peaceful wonders. In her spare time, she likes to explore anything and everything conventional and non-conventional. She loves to exist in solitude during her favorite pastime, which is long-distance running. She loves to befriend people from all walks of life, drink coffee, and discuss and explore ideas that aren't first nature to her. She also enjoys cooking when she can find the time for it and loves traveling with her son by her side. Also, my dog was snoring during our episode, so you will probably hear her little snores, so don't mind her. Okay, enjoy our conversation. Hey, I am so excited for this episode because not only am I speaking to someone that I look up to and in life, but we are like real life friends. So not only is she a guest, but we are real life friends. We have developed a friendship over the past 2 years. And so I am really excited to be talking to you on the podcast. So before we go on, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
So, thank you for having me. My name is Elizabeth, and I'm happy to be here on your podcast.
Yeah, we met through our my husband. Yes, my husband was really good friends with your brother, and it was when we photographed his wedding, maybe like a year and a half now.
Yes.
But we were able to meet in person at the wedding, and it was such a beautiful event. It was very intimate, and after that trip, because the wedding was in Mexico, and after that trip, we realized that we didn't live too far. You're in the suburbs, I'm in the city, but we also have kids around the same age. So I think your son is like in between my kid's age.
Yeah.
And so we were like, we need to like hang out in real life and get the kids like hanging out together. And so it's been really cool to connect through parenting and how we are doing things a little differently. And we've been able to really have great conversations about life, work, motherhood, all the things.
Everything in between.
Yes, and I am just thankful that you are on the podcast officially now. So I know that you have a 9 to 5, and I think this season is a perfect one for you to be on because I would love to hear more about what it's like to work in the corporate setting and just more about your journey getting there. So I'd love to hear the story of what brought you to what you're doing today.
Sure. So currently I am working as a litigation adjuster for an insurance company, or personal injury / litigation adjuster for an insurance company. I work remotely. So what I do is I will um, settle cases or claims, essentially claims for people who have been involved in motor vehicle accidents. Their insurance policy covers any injuries that someone may cause to somebody else because of an accident. So I will handle the claim from the beginning to the end and negotiate and make an offer for what I feel is fair to compensate someone for their medical bills, their pain and suffering. So I do that from the beginning to the end and then have them sign off on legal documents and then give them their money. So I've been doing that now since 2013. So that's 10 years now. I've always worked in the insurance industry I started off, that was like my first official corporate job was working in insurance as an adjuster. So I immediately, once I graduated college, there was an online job fair that I attended, and Geico was one of the recruiters, the company Geico. They were recruiting new college graduates, and I interviewed with them. I loved their pitch, and they hired me. I did a couple interviews and they hired me. So I started doing that there, and then I started off as just an adjuster, so just somebody who would handle the claim. There's different levels. When you're in an accident and you file a claim with your insurance company, you will set up the whole claim with them. And then if it's like an easy, like I hit something, my car doesn't need to be repaired, the company will just set aside like essentially what's called a reserve line for you. So a bucket of money that's going to take to fix your car. And then if the accident gets more complicated, then that's when the levels kind of change, and then it'll go to a different person who's a little bit more experienced in handling multiple factors that go into an accident, like people that are injured, or if you cause damage to property, or if there's legal ramifications involved. So I started off as somebody who would just do the simple claims. No one's at fault. I hit something and I just have to get my car fixed. And then was able to work my way up with more training and more experience and more exposure into the injury side of things. So I moved my way up pretty quickly, I think like within 2 years. And I did that. I loved it. It was pretty easy for me. It's just a bunch of processes you have to follow. Um, and I actually stepped away from that for a while because my degree was technically in HR and business management or business management. So I stepped away from that. I wanted to go into HR, but I didn't want to start at the bottom. So I kind of did like a lateral move into recruiting. And so I did that for a couple years and found that that wasn't for me at all. And so then I went back into the insurance industry. Um, and so I did that for a couple more years, back to the same role that I was doing with the injuries. And then I did a lateral move into workers' comp. And so I was an administrator for workers' comp for about 2 years. And then COVID hit, everyone went remote. And then I got not a knock on my door, like literally, but I got a call from a recruiter wanting me to go back to adjusting claims with injuries. And they made me an offer that I couldn't resist. So I jumped ship from workers' comp to back to um, bodily injury and motor vehicle accidents. So that's currently where I'm at right now.
So is this all within the same company or have you switched companies?
No, so I actually left Geico after 2.5 or 3 years to do recruiting. And then I wanted to do something different from Geico because the way that, so every big corporate company is set up in such a way that they're made to like maximize their profit, right? And so there's different processes that go into getting there. And each company has found a system that works for them. Is your dog snoring?
Yes.
Okay, okay. I was like, is that me in my stomach?
No,
Um,
it's my dog. And of course, she starts snoring like as I'm recording.
I'm not that boring. But so anyway, so what I found was that working for this company, they had a process set up so that they were maximizing their profits and not necessarily the most employee focused. And so it was causing a lot of burnout. So I couldn't figure out, before I left for recruiting, I couldn't figure out if it was the job itself that was burning me out or just the employer that was burning me out. I couldn't figure it out. But I think what I've learned is that big corporate companies are built that way. They all have their own processes. They all want to maximize their profits, and they're going to do so at possibly the expense of a lot of their resources. Um, So after working for the big corporate company, I jumped ship to a local company where I was living at the time, San Diego. And then I went to working for smaller companies, family-owned companies when I jumped back into the insurance industry. I did a lot of the smaller companies. So I've changed companies in insurance probably three times. One of the companies, they went bankrupt. And so, but the company that I'm currently with is a family-owned company, and I'm pretty happy with them. They're less, what it appears is that they're less profit driven and more about making sure that they're not going to get in trouble with the law, that we're doing everything ethical and fair and following the law.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask, if you're happy with this company because they care more about the people and they care more about their employees, um, as opposed to your previous job where you did experience burnout.
I am happier because it's a lot more flexible. They do care a lot about their employees. They've set it up so that their employees are comfortable and they're able to accommodate a lot of requests. But they are a lot smaller, so in being flexible and being able to accommodate their employees and making sure that they're happy, there's also a lot of other things that they're not able to offer, which is I guess, the trade-off.
Yeah. How long have you been with this company? You said a few years, right?
Now I'm going on a year and a half.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, well, congratulations. Do you get to move up like in the company that you're in? I know that you said that in the past, like it's been pretty easy for you to advance. But because this is a smaller company, there those opportunities as well?
There are and there are not. So with the bigger companies, there's always room for growth and opportunity and advancement, and you can do it pretty fast, but the cost is the burnout, and it's real. Um, with this company, it's kind of like, or with the smaller companies, what I found is that the opportunity is there, but there's a lot of different factors that go into it. And just to be completely raw and transparent, like it's about kind of who you know and what you can bring to the table, and proving that every day that you show up. Um, so I mean, it's the possibility is there. It's just up to you if you want to take it. And sometimes I haven't taken advantage of those opportunities yet because I'm still at a place where I'm trying to figure out if I want to. Because I think regardless of where you go, the possibility of burnout is there.
Hmm. When you were at your previous job and were experiencing burnout, the what was happening in your mind? Because I think we all experience burnout, but I know that a lot of times we've been conditioned to just keep pushing through, and there's this like war happening in our heads, like, oh, we just need to keep pushing through. Maybe I'm just making it up, or if I just take like a day to rest, like I'll be fine. So how long did you experience the burnout? Was it gradual? Did you one day just say, like, I can't believe that I'm here, like I need out right now? What was that experience for you?
So I think it when I the burnout didn't happen for me right away, and I think part of that was my age. I think I was 25 or 26 when I graduated college, and it was literally 1 month to the next. So I graduated college, and 2 weeks later I had an offer, and then my start date was 2 weeks later. So, and it was just like a jump right in. Like those bigger companies are set up so that they're training you and they're getting you out on the floor as soon as they can. Um, so I was in my mid to late 20s when I started, and I was young and had a lot of energy, and my son was really little. So I had the time and the energy to spend on work at work and just grind, 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 grind. It wasn't until I made the transition, and I was experiencing a lot of tiredness, but it wasn't something that I could really identify at the time. I wasn't coming home and being like, this job is killing me. I was coming home and being like, I'm just tired, and that's just what happens when you go to work is you just get tired, and that's just what you deal with, and that's it. It's not the job, it's just me. Like that's just what it is, you know? And and just take care of it on the weekends, you know? And it wasn't until I left the bigger company and went to the smaller company that was a little more slow paced that I saw that it was burnout, because at the slower companies I was able to take my time and really not really follow a process where the end goal was maximizing profit. I mean, I think that's always the end goal, right? But that wasn't like the day-to-day concern. The day-to-day concern at the smaller companies was just make sure you're doing everything right and fair and ethically so that you're not going to get fined when the state comes in to audit our files. So, because we can't afford those fines, right? Whereas like the bigger companies, it's like a drop in the bucket for them. So it wasn't until I experienced the other side of it, the slower pace side, that I would think to myself, wow, like I think it is I think they are the problem, you know. I think that it's the bigger scaled companies that the processes and how they're set up to just grind, grind, grind. I think that is contributing to the problem. And that was probably more so in my early 30s that I started to realize that. And that's um when I would look for an employer, that's at that point, I was a lot more mindful about looking for an employer that would work for me and would almost have, um, like they would offer things to counterbalance that burnout, right? Like, so there were some employers who'd be like, you know, we have free, you know, massages on the weeks during these weeks, or we have a fitness room for you to use, you know, or we have just a lot of other benefits that counteract that burnout. Because I think you're going to experience burnout no matter where you go, and a lot of employers do realize that. It's just them being able to offer those additional benefits to you to help with that burnout.
So, did you take advantage of those massages in the fitness room?
I did, yes, and then COVID hit. I did, yes. So the first company I worked for, they actually had a cafeteria on site, and they had a workout room, a lot of little perks, you know, but those benefits could have been better. And then when I jumped to like a smaller workers' comp insurance carrier, they had a lot of those benefits too. But they also had um, like additional time off, or um, they gave you a lot more time off in your little pile of hours off, or they would give you like 8 hours for the, you know, per year to go volunteer at your kid's school. They would pay you for that, and that's super helpful, right? Whereas like other companies don't offer those benefits.
So, I only know the corporate life through friends, through my husband, and I've been learning more and hearing more from the perspective of Latinas and people of color and their experience in the corporate setting. So, have you, during your years of work, encountered any microaggressions or biases that have really impacted you? And like, how did you navigate those things?
I was thinking about that question earlier, and I don't know that I think at some point everyone does, but not in the moment when you're encountering those microaggressions. You're not like thinking about it per se. You kind of just think about it after. I think you're going to encounter microaggressions everywhere you go. I'm not sure if that's like solely a corporate thing. I think that's just a people thing. I think so. Yes, to answer your question, I have, but I think that's normal when people are confined to a certain set of duties and roles and time. I think that's just kind of something that's bound to happen. Um, how did I combat that? I mean, just for me personally, I've always gone into work thinking like I'm here to do a specific task, to complete a task, to do my job, and I don't have time to deal with anything that's not related to that. And so I just kind of like block everything out and just power through. Have any of those microaggressions gotten my way? Not really. I think that's a personal choice sometimes. I think it also depends on how you handle those microaggressions. Like if you take it personally, then it could absolutely impact your day-to-day corporate world or corporate life. But if you nip it in the butt from the beginning, in my experience anyway, I think that that's something that's super easy to just overcome. So for me, like I know I've had managers and supervisors who we always didn't see eye to eye, or our working styles just didn't work for each other. And so in those situations, I would just we I again I don't I've never had time to waste in my work life or at work. And so I would honestly just be bold and address it in the moment, like what can we do to get, obviously there's something happening, there's a dynamic that isn't working. So what can we do? What can I do? What can you do? Can you do this a little differently? I'm happy to change whatever I need to change to get this to work. And most of the time, people are really receptive to that. A lot of times, people, when they're being aggressive, sometimes they don't know that they're being aggressive. Um, it's just a natural response. I think we can all get defensive when we're under pressure. And so a lot of people take to that like constructive feedback. There have been some another supervisor once who it wasn't really working, or like whatever we did wasn't working. It had to be escalated, and what ended up happening was I just got moved to another team, which is fine. I don't care. Like as long as I can be there to do my job, and it worked better for me and it worked better for her. Like we were just there to meet department objectives. I wasn't there to be friends with anyone. I was there to make money. Um, and so again, just like nipping it in the butt when it happens, I just keeping focus on why you're there. That's just how I've dealt with it. I don't know if that's everyone else's experience. I actually would love to hear how people deal with that, like, or what everyone else's experience is like.
Yeah, I've been also interested in hearing that because like you said, microaggressions are going to happen out and about. They're going to happen throughout life. It's not just the corporate world. And I am learning how to address it, but it's not always a natural response for me to call it out in the moment. I'm just sometimes in shock, or sometimes I don't realize that it's happening until after the fact and I'm replaying the conversation. So I have been interested in hearing other people's perspectives and what they've done to address situations. And I think it wasn't until like an actual defining moment that I realized I had experienced microaggressions in the past or insensitive comments in the past. And so it is tricky to navigate because when you're at work like most of the day and you have to kind of just keep on
Keep it on.
working,
Yeah.
yeah. And like you said, you want to focus on your tasks, your work, because you're there to make money and you're there to support your family. And yeah, sometimes you can't take it personally and just understand that some people don't understand, or it's just an ignorance thing and they don't know until they're told.
This might be a little controversial too, but I think it just also depends on your coworkers and who your company employs and how they go about employing them. I think that has a lot to do with it. In my specific role, because education is everything, right? Like like even learning how to not be ignorant and how to critically think. Um, that's that's something that comes with learning, and that's something that education helps with a lot, in my opinion, right? Like learning how to build your critical thinking skills while you're in school, learning how to open up your mind to theories and different ways of thinking. That's something that you learn in school, right? Without being so like on the defense about it. And so with my company, well, the initial company that when I first started in corporate, the requirement was you had to have a college degree. Like it didn't matter what it was in, but you had to have a 4-year degree. So I think that, and so everyone in my role, on my team, we were all college graduates. Granted, that doesn't like take away from the fact that personalities are going to clash, but I feel like it can help with how people handle certain situations. I don't know. It's just my 2 cents. I don't know. Like I never had to worry about like at my job worry about like things that I didn't need to worry about, like people gossiping, and maybe they were, I just didn't see it, but like people gossiping, or like we were all really there just focused to get our work done. So I never experienced that. I didn't experience like any bullying in the workplace. I've never experienced any harassment in the workplace. Like I said, whenever there were aggressions that would come up, or even microaggressions that would possibly set me back a little bit, it was just addressed right away, and everyone was on the same page about getting it addressed. So I thankfully have never experienced that. But in jumping from that company, I always made sure to look for companies who hired similarly, went through a screening process, went through mock interviews. They were a little bit more, um, like their interviews were more competitive, and they really, you had to like, it wasn't just about your work history. It was also about like what personally you could bring to the table, what your personality traits were like, things like that. Um, I always looked at that moving forward because I always just wanted to go to work and not worry about anything else. And again, that might be a little controversial, but it's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, I think that's valuable because a lot of times, like depending on who you are and your personality, like you go to work and want to find your friends there. You may want to build work relationships. But if you have already established friendships outside of work, then it's not like you really need that.
Right.
And I think it's like personality, like depending on the personality type that you are, you might want to develop friendships at work. Like you might not be able to work with people unless you have a relationship or feel like you have a relationship with them. And so understanding those personality types, I think, is big or important when you are working on a team and being able to navigate different personalities and that. I have always admired your confidence, and I don't know if I've told you in person, but I do admire your confidence and especially like just the way that you think, and the conversations that we have are always really beneficial for me and impactful to my life. And I am curious if you've ever experienced imposter syndrome, because you are so confident and I'm
Oh,
just
thank
like,
you.
yes, I need to have some of that confidence rub off on me. But
Oh.
I'm wondering if you haven't experienced imposter syndrome.
So I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't know a whole lot about imposter syndrome until I started looking it up and researching it, and I was like, what the heck? Like that's me. So yeah, so um throughout my entire career in the corporate world, I have felt like there are times where I'm like, how did I get here? Like how, because I feel very fortunate to be where I'm at. I mean, I'm not in like an executive or management position for personal reasons. It's just a personal choice I've made not to pursue those avenues in the corporate world. For the burnout, it's not worth it to me. But I mean, I am pretty comfortable where I'm at. I have a really, really good job, and my company is super flexible. And so I have a lot of opportunity during the day to not only focus and do a really good job with work, but also like focus on my son and focus on myself. And take 5 minutes to, I don't know, like go outside and take a walk or like make an oatmeal or do some laundry. I have that opportunity, and the benefits are really great. But there are times where I'm like, how did I get here? Like, I mean, all I do is just read things and, plug away at a computer. I'm not like curing cancer. I'm not like saving lives, and so I'm like, maybe I'm just really charming. Maybe I've just charmed my way up. And so I was reading the what imposter syndrome is, and I'm like, I think that that's me. Like, I'm not giving myself enough credit for what I can do and what I've been doing. Um, so I think in just like this opportunity to speak with you and be on your podcast has really allowed me to reflect on that is happening in my life right now, and just reflecting on everything that I've been able to accomplish for myself. I'm like, no way, like it's just because people like me, or no, it's just because like I'm just funny, or like people trust me. Um, but it isn't that, like I can read really well, or I can like type things really well, and I can articulate pretty well on the phone to people, and I can navigate through legal documents really well. And I don't give myself enough credit for that. And I was thinking like, why don't I like why? Why am I not giving myself credit? And I don't know why. I don't know. I think I think like people, maybe like our culture, like we put so many things that are not what's the word, like that we don't experience firsthand on a daily basis, like things that we see on TV, or people that we look up to that are not who we are. We put them up on a pedestal, right? And we glorify all these things about them. But what I'm finding is like there's not a whole lot of reason to do that, right? Like in just my personal experience, like with can I talk about my personal experience with like
Yeah.
with Julio and stuff?
Yeah.
So like Julio, he like my friend or Julio, he does this thing where he like talks to people he doesn't interact with on a day-to-day basis, like teachers and doctors, and he's like, wow, like you're a rock star. And I'm like, it's just medical school. Like, it's not a big deal, And I'm like, why do we do that? Like, why do we put so many things up on a pedestal? Like, anyone can be a doctor, anyone can be a lawyer, anyone can do anything. It's just about like putting the time in to get there. These things. So I think that all goes back to like we put things up on a pedestal, and we think that they're not attainable or we can't be those things, but we really can. And then we just kind of clown ourselves, by thinking that like we're not any of those things. I don't know if I'm making sense.
Yes, I think that we um, view other people as, like you said, we put them on a pedestal. And then when we're advancing and gaining the next, or like talking about the corporate world, once you get promoted to the next position, then you're continuing to look at who's higher instead of, wow, I did that. I am here and I worked hard to get where I'm at. A lot of times we don't take time to celebrate. We're just like keep pushing to the next goal, and we're always looking ahead and what we want to attain, and not taking the time to say like, I I made it here because I am worthy of being here. I put in the work to move up to the next position, or to the next like pay bracket.
Pay grade, yeah.
Yeah. So yes, that makes sense. A lot of times I am also thinking like, I work so hard and I don't take time to celebrate, and then it throws me off when someone asks me like, "Oh, you just did this. What are you going to do to celebrate?" And I'm just like, "Me, celebrate? It wasn't that big a deal." And I'm already putting myself down because I don't think like, "Oh, well, it wasn't as big as so and so's event," or like, "It wasn't that. So this was just like a small little thing. I don't need to celebrate it." So yeah, I think we do that to ourselves. And I don't know if it's cultural. Actually, I mean, I think it is because we've come from this survival uh, mentality that has been passed on through the generations. And we don't take time to celebrate because we're still carrying all of that cultural roots, like that cultural baggage into our own lives, and we're actively trying to heal from it, but it's still like residual. At least
Yeah.
I feel a little bit of residual based on like what my parents have told me, or the conditioned ideas that they have passed down, and so I actively have to be combating that, and it's hard.
It is hard. And I think that's probably part of the reason why, like, I'm taking a step back from trying to get to the next best thing. I was just telling a friend recently that, like, I'm in my do nothing era right now. Like, I don't want to do anything other than just work and be proud of what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis, and not and surviving the day, and then doing just a little bit better than the last day, right? And so, like, and I'm okay with that. I'm 100% okay with that. Like, I am going to celebrate the fact that I'm not late, 5 minutes late to work, that I'm actually on time. Like, those are big things for me personally. So I'm in that, like, that era right now where I don't want to move forward and I don't want to get ahead. I just want to enjoy what I've worked for. And, like, being able to work from home in my room and, spend time with my kid, like, that's enough for me. And I've noticed that I get like weird looks from people, like, "Oh, really? Like, don't want more?" And I'm like, "No, I don't. Like, I don't know." But I'm okay with it. I'm 100% okay with it. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like, I don't know.
That kind of sounds nice, the do nothing era. I think
Mm-hmm.
that should be like the title of the podcast.
The do nothing
um,
area.
I think a lot of people are seeking that, and especially if they have experienced burnout or are experiencing burnout in their jobs. I think, if anything, the past 3 years has taught us to value or take inventory of what really matters in our lives, and a lot like mostly not a job. It's typically like, if you ask people like what they value, it's um, things like their family, their time, rest. A lot of people are really taking time to learn how to rest. I know I
Mm.
am, and I still struggle with taking time off and taking time to rest, because it's such a new concept that I did not grow up accepting or thinking about. So I think the more that people talk about it, the more that people define it for themselves. What does rest mean for them? And what is this do nothing era for them? I think we're going to have a more chill generation, or at
Yeah.
least like
I
not
hope
stressed out.
so. I hope so. Like, yeah, I mean, I know my parents, when I've talked to them about that, they're like, "What? Like, what are you talking about?" But it's just like, I'm not a survivor like they are. I grew up very I can't relate to their experience, and I will never be able to relate to their experience. So is it really my fault that I don't have, like, that survival energy, that survival need? I don't think that that's my fault. I don't think that there's fault in that. That's just not who I am. That's not how I was built. So why am I trying to pretend like I need to survive? I know how to work, and I know how to be a mom, and I know how to do other things to survive. Like, I'm good as long as I can make a decent living for myself in a an ethical way, and be a good example for my kid and show him, like, what you can do when you put your time and effort. I think I'm good with that.
Yeah. I think that's encouraging. And that's something that I know that I've learned from you, and just seeing how you interact with your son and the things that you are valuing in your own life. And I know that we've talked about communication between generations and how it's not easy to have to explain and defend what we're doing now and the way that we're shifting to the previous generation. But I think, and that's what I want to continue highlighting, that there's so many people doing that shift and doing that work and having those hard conversations, and it's going to be worth it because we see it in our kids. And it's that it's like a validation, like,
Hmm.
okay, we're doing okay because they're okay. And I really appreciate that about
Yeah.
you.
And I think that also, like in my parents, I mean, I don't know however how people are in the culture, but with the communication with their parents, but my parents are very open to the do nothing era. They're like, you know what, you're right. Like we're done struggling. We need to know how to enjoy things too. And so they do take examples and, watch how I hang out with Chase or how I just take a weekend to go away, and they're like, well, we want to do that too. And so it's just setting that example for them because they deserve that, the do nothing too, and so they're also learning how to be that way and being comfortable with it. So that's nice. That's been nice to see.
Yeah, I just want to give a shout out to your parents because I really do enjoy hanging out with them. I got to meet them in Mexico too for the wedding, and it was just so refreshing to hang out with them and see your dynamic. And yeah, I just want to give them a shout out.
Oh,
I
thank you.
I like
Yeah,
them.
they're fun. I think they like
Yeah,
the do nothing era because then, my dad likes to do, he's finding things that he likes to do with his time, like drinking and like, going to breweries and things. And that's not like something you hear of in our culture,
yeah.
exploring new cuisines and things like that. And it's just really nice to be able to expose them to that and have them not feel guilty about it.
That's
Yeah.
the thing. Like,
Yeah.
a lot of times it's tied with guilt. Like, resting is tied with guilt. So I am trying to, what's the word? I'm trying to be an example of that for my kids, and to not, and to really watch the things that I say. Like, if I'm resting, like, just enjoy it and don't put any stipulations on it. And
Yeah.
to get the guilt out of my head, because that is what I've been conditioned personally to believe. But I love that. I think it's so encouraging to see the dynamic that you and your parents have, and that they are embracing this hangout, this chill out, this do nothing era in their own lives. Both your parents, oh, I think I know that your father is retired.
He is. Yes.
Is he
Yeah.
enjoying retirement?
So he is enjoying retirement, but he always is like needing to be busy. And he's been retired for a really long time too. I think that's naturally though, something that just comes with retirement. Um, but he is taking it a lot easier than he used to. So, which is fine. My mom still works, but she only works to just, supplement her own like personal spending habits. So that's nice too. Um, but I get a lot of that confidence from my mom, and I don't know where she gets it from because she did struggle to get here, and I don't know, and she's gone through so much, so I don't know where she got it from. She's like the OG for me. Like every time I'd be like, "Oh my God, I'm so tired. I don't want to do anything." She's like, "Don't do anything. Like, don't do anything." And so, and I always got that from her. And so, she's always like, "Laundry can wait, cleaning can wait. Go have fun." But I don't know where she gets that from, and I'm probably gonna ask her after this. But she was always like, that's where my confidence comes from is her. So props to her.
Yes, props to her. Um, so, since your mom has been your example throughout your life, what encouragement or advice would you pass on to the next generation?
I would so I'm happy to give all perspectives. So as far as like the burnout at work, I would say there's always something better. there's always something better. It's just about looking for it and knowing what to look for. So one thing I've learned about working in corporate is that, I mean, this is just my perspective and my motto is that like you're making money for somebody, so you have to make it work for you, right? So go out and find, and everything's negotiable. Everything in life is negotiable, even with the corporate job. I found that if I don't ask, I won't get it. And in a lot of my corporate positions, or most of my corporate positions, if I want something, I ask for it. And most of the time, I'll get it if it's reasonable. And if I don't get it, and I am really bringing value to the company, they'll work with me and negotiate something, or yeah, or offer me something else, which is kind of really nice. Um, I've been able to ask for like more pay, a set work schedule, equipment that isn't like the standard, um, extended lunch periods like built into my contracts just by asking for it. So, which I don't think a lot of people know to do that. Like, I know that I've always negotiated my schedule. So I've always come in saying, like, these are the hours that I want to work. And if I can't get these hours, like, what can I get? And most of the times, employers will accommodate. If they feel like you are bringing value, they will accommodate. So, so what advice I would give is just know what to look for in employers. Like, if you want to be able to, and know what benefits to look for. If you and ask for them. If you don't see them, ask for them. Like, when can I get a pay raise? Can I get this? Just always ask. Always ask and know that there's always something better. If you're not happy with where you're at, look for something better. Like you set your own terms and conditions. That's 100% the advice that I would give. Um, I know that that's not something that's applicable to everybody because not everyone has all like the skill sets and values to be able to offer. But I would say that in the process of your burnout, make sure that you're always constantly like working on yourself to be able to offer so that you can have that exchange. As far as like life is concerned with business, I would say that um I think education is 100% important. Like I think that we're in this era where you can make money and not have to go to school. But I think that there's so many things that come from going to school and getting an education that you can't get unless you're exposed to certain things, certain experiences, and not everyone is exposed to them. I think that school builds a lot of your critical thinking skills, your writing skills, and your communication skills. And if anything, like I think those three things are worth going to school for. So like I'm encouraging my son, like go to school 100%, get a degree. It doesn't matter what it's in, but get it. And then if you want to go and be a painter or be homeless on the street, like do it, that's fine. But you're going to have these skills that you can take anywhere with you, anywhere that are invaluable. You know, a lot of people take to those skills, and those skills can get you to a lot of places. I also would say that as you're developing as a person, find what your skills are, whether they're in a corporate setting or not. Like if I could go back and focus on skills, like the skills that I have as a human, things that I could do and capitalize off those skills, like when I was in high school, I would 100% do that. Like I would have gotten my degree, but also focus on building my own like artistic skills so that once I'm done with school, I could be an artist or I could do, get creative and make a living and capitalize off of that if I wanted to. Or if I didn't want to do that, then go into corporate. I have both. So I would 100% just say like always focus on finding like what you're really good at, and seeing if you are able to capitalize on that so that you don't have to burn out in the corporate world if you don't want to.
Yeah, so always have something that is going to bring you joy. So speaking of which, I know that you're in your do nothing era. So has there been something that you've invited into your life that is really bringing you peace and joy and some self-care?
I think for me, well, I love to run. I love, love, love to run. That's my thing. That brings me a lot of peace. The sun, being outdoors, nature, being alone and not feeling bad about it, not feeling bad that I'm taking 2, 3 hours to be alone outside. Like, I don't feel bad about that, you know? That 100%, I always need my alone time, even if it's just to take a walk or watch a movie or get some ice cream or take myself out on a date. Like I always try to make time for that. That's 100% what I always need for me every week. It's like not a non-negotiable. Um, and most people are like, I wish I could do that. And I'm like, well, you can and you need to and you should because it's good for you because you can't be good for someone else unless you're good for yourself first, you know? So that, and then always for me also is just keeping my mind open to the possibility of maybe wanting to do more for myself in the future. And if I don't want to do more for myself, that's cool too, you know? So.
Yeah. All right. Well, this has been a great conversation. I appreciate your time and everything that you shared. I appreciate you sharing your story transparently. And yeah, I'm sure, I mean, we're going to hang out soon. So
Yes, soon.
I will be able to see you soon. For anyone who is wanting to connect with you, is there a good place for them to like connect?
Probably like email or my Instagram. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. I can share that in the show notes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, and we'll see each other soon.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
What a great and inspiring conversation to send us into the week. Okay, amigos, thank you so much for listening. There'll be a new episode every Tuesday. So after you listen, feel free to take a screenshot, post on Instagram, and tag at Elevating La Cultura, or send me a DM. You can also comment on this YouTube video if you're watching online. I always like to hear from people and how they resonate with the stories that I share. So leave a review on Apple Podcasts so we can get more ears listening to these stories and we can continue elevating La Cultura. And if you haven't already, check out the website elevatinglacultura.com to see what in-person events I've got going on for you. And you can also see our new merch shop. And the doors are open for the Showing Up Latina in Business Mentorship Program. I just opened the doors back in August for the first cohort, and the growth from the jefas in the program has been amazing. The program is designed exclusively for Latina business owners and leaders, where we can celebrate our wins together, pour into each other by leveraging our advice and networks, and keep each other accountable. Many of us are in the time of transition or pivoting and feel like we are on the cusp of something that is about to pop off in our businesses. And if you're a solo entrepreneur, you know the struggle of doing all the things all the time and trying to keep up with all the new trends when it comes to social media. It can be overwhelming for sure, which is getting in the way of faster growth. So if you've been thinking it would be great to have an accountability person or someone to bounce ideas off of and brainstorm next steps with, I'm your person. Visit elevatinglacultura.com/mentorship to apply and schedule a quick call with me. Let's get into 2024 on the right foot. All right, enjoy the rest of your day, afternoon, evening, whenever you're listening, y nos vemos next week. Bye.